like to call to order, please, the Bellefonte Borough Council work session. Welcome everyone to the Bellefonte Borough Council work session. No council action will be taken during this work session. The first item here is a trivia question by Barbara Dan.
Thank you. Tonight I have a question about the Garment Opera House. The Garment Opera House was originally built in 1890 and hosted many notable stars of the day. Can you name any of those stars who you think may have been there?
George and Gracie.
Yes, yes. I have two more that I found quickly. Anybody? Harry Houdini, yes. One more. Pardon me? Mills Brothers were not listed, but I'm guessing they played there too. The other one was Tom Mix, who was a Western entertainer and was a friend of Wyatt Earp. He was. He grew up in Mix Run, which is about an hour north of here, and then they moved to Du Bois. How'd you know all that? That was my rabbit hole today. Thank you.
Okay, items for discussion. The first one is our long-range transportation plan. We have someone here to speak on that.
I do. Thank you for having me. My name is Marcella Hoffman. I'm going to move this over. I'm a staff member of the Center County MPO, which is our transportation unit in the county. So part of what we're doing tonight is I'm going to speak with you. I have a couple of questions for you. What I'll offer is if the council would like time to think about these questions, excuse me, and get back to me, that's totally fine. Otherwise, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and concerns. So a long-range transportation plan is updated every 5 years. It is projected out to 30 years and identifies the transportation goals. It gathers data and applies project prioritization. LRGPs also demonstrate the recommended transportation plan and how it can be implemented, identify the public and private resources expected to be available to carry out the plan, and recommend any additional financing strategies for needed projects and programs. So when I sent my original email, we didn't have this nice little flyer completed. So if you don't mind, can I just pass this? And it just gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what the LRTP is, what we're looking for. So the questions I'll be asking will mostly be related to Bellefonte Borough, but there are a couple questions that are region-wide, so Nittany Valley and county-wide. So I think in your packet I had included in my email the workshop that we did back in 2023. I believe Ann Messner came and spoke to you. And then back in 2019, we also had a very large effort. That was kind of where we started doing this. So we adopted a strategic plan last year for the MPO, and part of that was a commitment to visit our municipalities every 2 years. So that is why I'm here. So you'll see me or someone else in probably 2026 around this time. So if there's no other questions, I will get started on my questions. Okay. So the first one is about key corridors in Bellefonte Borough. Specifically, what are the major needs and issues related to highways, bridges, any other sort of transportation focus?
I worked on this yesterday, and I looked over your original thing. I think some of these things we still need. I came up with 3 key corridor issues. One was to reinstitute regular public transit services between Bellefonte area and the center region. The second was a need for better walkability outside of the downtown Bellefonte area, particularly now that the elementary school is moving out to an area that doesn't have any sidewalks. And the third one was possible rerouting of truck traffic away from our small but busy downtown streets.
Okay. Just, you can talk. I'm not gonna.
I also would be interested in some bikeways with the roads too. I think that would be a very important part for Bellefonte going forward?
I have to bring up Phoenix Avenue and 150. That intersection's been an issue for many years for Bellefonte, and that certainly adds to the congestion in that corridor. So we're looking for assistance on that.
Yeah, so I don't have a complete update, but I know that PennDOT is conducting a study, so sort of a feasibility study, and to kind of figure out, well, we know what the issues are, but they need it in data, to maybe put together something that we could have as an actual project. I haven't been able to get an answer from PennDOT on exactly where they're at, but it's been asked by several other municipalities, so they know that question is there, and I'm just waiting for them to tell me where it's at.
Okay.
I do have a question about the increased commercial development in Benner Township and what's happening on the Benner Pike. Coming into Bellefonte, we have a natural choke point at Water and High Street.
Yes.
You've got the arcade building and the creek. There is no way to
Right.
expand that intersection.
Right.
What can be done to alleviate traffic congestion there, or, as Joanne suggested, rerouting some of the traffic around town?
So I don't have an answer for that. I wish I did. You know, I actually live in Marion Township, so I travel this area quite frequently. Obviously part of that congestion issue is at Phoenix Avenue and kind of the backup there. We're hoping that they'll come up with something that will alleviate that issue, at least at that intersection, but obviously there is, up on the Benner Pike, there's all the commercial development. So what we're doing as an MPO is we are requesting supplemental planning studies from PennDOT. We've been successful many, many times in the past. Since I've been with the MPO, we've gotten a study done every year. Part of that will be to look at the Benner Pike corridor. We have all of the data that the county has given us, that Benner Township has given us, kind of the plans that are coming online still. I think there's a big pile of dirt where the hotel is going to go right now. So we have all that data. What we're working on now is putting a scope together to present to PennDOT, to hopefully do a needs assessment for that corridor, and then figure out what we can do in the future for an actual construction project. And we're treating Phoenix Avenue and 150 and then Benner Pike separately because although they have similar issues, I think doing a corridor study from, you know, Fisherman's Paradise all the way down to that intersection would be too big of a scale. So we're breaking that up, just because I know the needs are similar, but the causes are a little bit different in terms of Benner Pike has a lot of ongoing construction, whereas where we're at on Phoenix Avenue, there's not a lot of development. It's mostly redevelopment, so everything is stuck, I'll say. So we're really hoping to be successful with this supplemental planning study. We are going to have to request it in 2025. Have to think about the calendar. So it won't be right away, unfortunately. We were having some issues getting like a champion for the project. You know, we did get, you know, your letter requesting the study, being supportive of the study. We got one from Spring Township, we got one from Benner, we got one from Marion Township. So obviously Nittany Valley is very supportive of it, but when we do projects like this, we have to have a champion, and we were trying to navigate finding that. So we think we found that now. Benner Pike has offered up a little bit of a local match for this, which is really key when we do supplemental planning studies. So now that we have that commitment, you know, we'll be able to move forward, put a scope together, and present it to PennDOT. And again, like I said, we have been successful in the past. I can't make any promises. This is really up to PennDOT, but I hope that they understand. I think they do understand, at least at the district level, that we do have a lot of issues with Benner Pike and with Phoenix Avenue, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
I didn't catch everything that was said, but excuse me if I'm being redundant. Is PennDOT, is everyone who's involved in this project looking at the long term? When Bellefonte was built, you know, was built, I think Deb and I had this conversation, that it was built to accommodate the people at that time. And then they just sardine canned all these homes in between other homes. But my thinking is that in the future, maybe not in my lifetime, but at some point, State College and Bellefonte are going to join. Bellefonte's already expanding out.
Right.
The prison will sell that ground. They don't have any use for it anymore. They have a couple horses in the barn, that's about it. But at some point, I don't know if this is all going to become maybe the historic district of State College, but there's going to be substantial growth.
Right.
Is that being looked at? I mean, not so much like a Maryland, Baltimore beltway, but some other ways to come around and come into the town.
Sure.
Everything's been short-sighted so far.
Yes. Are you talking specifically for Phoenix Avenue or for Benner Pike or both?
Both, maybe even to come off of I-99 and come around or something, because there is such a backup on the Benner Pike.
Right. I will say specifically for Benner Pike, only because I know what we've been looking at data-wise. I can't really speak to Phoenix Avenue because that's PennDOT's project, and I'm, again, not really sure what they've been doing with it. For Benner Pike, I know what they've been doing with the land that's around, right adjacent to Benner Pike, as they're looking at what's the max capacity that can be built out for these parcels of land. So obviously we have the hotel going up. I think maybe there's another restaurant going in there. But even looking back behind where all the houses are, we have the Logan Green development. There's a property when you're going down the hill, like towards the Willowbank building off to the right, there's farmland out there. Spring Township told me that the family there is interested in selling for housing. So they're not official, obviously, but there's a lot of development happening in that corridor. So when we look at Benner Pike and we look at the study and the scope, I do think that they're going to consider looking at those vacant properties right now to see what's the zoning and what's the max of this being built out, so that when we do develop something, that it's going to accommodate our future. I can't talk about Phoenix Avenue. I'm hoping to get an answer on where they're at with that study, and then I can certainly follow up.
Other questions?
I'm going to try one here. I haven't looked at this since 2019, and I don't know if anybody else at this table has either. It's been a long time, and it's not old, it's not new to us, but we haven't looked at it. And that's something I think the council needs to do. If we're going to be doing this every 5 years, then we need to have a program that's putting us on a 5-year projection of looking at what's coming up. When Shauna was talking about Bellefonte moving, getting involved with State College, well, we got Benner Township and Spring Township between us. We can't do that. We can't throw that on paper and say, oh, here, we're going to go to State College now. It's not going to happen. So we need to look at stuff like that if we're really going to try to move this forward over the next few years to see what happens. I'm not opposed to anything. I haven't heard anything to be opposed of. But some of the ideas you have to really think out who else you're affecting. That's my 2 cents.
I saw in the report something about using rail service between here and State College.
Was that in your?
That was in the previous one.
Okay.
I don't know what the feasibility of that is.
So we are actually going to be doing a rail study as well. So that is also part of supplemental funds that we're asking for this year. It won't be rail service in terms of bringing an actual railroad into the area to be able to have passenger service. There was a study done, I want to say about a decade ago, that I think PennDOT put on with, I'm not sure who the train company was, but we're going to be utilizing that study, seeing what outcomes came out of that, because I'm not even sure what came out of that, but using that study as a basis to then maybe see what we can do to get passenger rail service more accessible for Center County as a whole, because right now our options are Lewistown, Huntington, and Altoona. Again, I don't think it will be an actual rail that brings us back and forth, but I think it would look at a dedicated bus service to take people to and from these areas. But again, you know, we've had a lot of support for this study. I've had residents call me and tell me, yes, you should do this. I've had former Penn State students call me and tell me, you know, I came here as a student and was really, really surprised that we had absolutely no train service here. I had a resident come in and draw me a map and show me how we could do passenger rail service in all of Center County. So that is another study that we're looking at. There is a lot of support for it, so we're hoping that maybe we'll get some good answers out of that.
When you're doing that, you might want to contact the Bellefonte Historic Railway
Yes.
Society, because they know what's still working and what's not.
Right.
I think they used to have a train to Chicago from Bellefonte. I don't know when that started and when it stopped, but it was, I know my father didn't run, he took it to Chicago. I
That's
don't know where
good
else
to
it
know.
went.
Right. Well, if there's no other questions, I do have a couple of more that are kind of more specific. So we touched a little bit about alternative transportation modes, so bicycle, pedestrian, transit. I don't know that Bellefonte Borough has horse and buggy here. And then ATV, obviously, I don't think would be applicable here. So specifically bicycle, pedestrian, and transit issues. What are the gaps and capacity issues?
We're currently working on the Millrace Bridge project. And one of the things that I noticed is we need, in terms of pedestrian, we need complete streets programs throughout the county, but particularly here in Bellefonte. And so we've been talking, and PennDOT has agreed to do some stamped sidewalks. I would like to see more use of the heat maps to show where pedestrians are walking, because right now I've gotten some pushback from PennDOT saying that they're unwilling to put a stamped crosswalk at Dunlop Street over to Talleyrand Park, even though that is an intersection. And when you look at the heat map, that is the brightest yellow in that section of town. And we have had other areas in town where we have had crosswalks closer than 300 feet apart. And I think for the safety of the people, doing something like that there would be a very good idea. And I don't think people are going to walk 300 feet in one direction or another to cross the street. That's just not the habit of people.
Thank you.
Also, this time of year, you're at about 5 o'clock, 5:30, it gets dark. And I'm wondering how many drivers are paying attention to that. It kind of hit me here just about a week ago. I'm driving along and all of a sudden I see a shadow coming at me. And I don't know, and if people, somehow we have to have something out there to remind people to slow down, watch where you're going, make sure there's no pedestrians in the area that you're going to have an accident. But then it was also some lighting and things that we talked about before too, that you could have a blinking light just to show that it's a pedestrian area coming up. Doesn't have to be a stop sign, doesn't have to be anything, just a blinking light from both sides.
Thank you. Okay. The next one is related to emerging technology. What new or emerging technologies would you like to see deployed to improve mobility or system operation? So you just mentioned blinking lights for pedestrians. That can certainly be, technology oriented for sure.
I think the stamped sidewalks are much more visible than just painted crosswalks. And that, although it's a very low technology, I think would be helpful, not only here but other places around the county.
I know they're working on autonomous transit vehicles. We probably won't see them here in central Pennsylvania anytime soon, but it would be nice to have something like that.
Other comments or questions?
Okay, I have two more.
Okay.
County or regional issues, so thinking maybe Nittany Valley or county-wide, what are major transportation needs and issues that exist throughout the region or the county? County or regional issues, what major transportation needs and issues exist throughout the region or the county?
I'm going to go back to public transit again. We need more public transit throughout the Nittany Valley region. It's in our comprehensive plan for all 5 municipalities within the region. Right now, we only have it in Benner and Bellefonte. And in Benner, they're going to be leaving unless they can find additional transportation for their residential areas. It's in the business quarter, but they don't have any of it down the residential along 550. And I think that, but if we look at it as a regional sort of thing and try to get it all together, I think we will, in the long run, have ability, particularly with more and more development going on throughout the region, to be able to provide the services that are needed for everybody.
I think in the future, with 99 and 80 being connected, that still has a few years to work, and we don't know what it's actually going to look like once it's done.
Yeah.
That would be a concern at this point, maybe look forward to.
Sure.
Go ahead, Doug. Please.
Marcella, how are you? I'm sorry I didn't recognize you
That's
when I
okay.
first came in. I apologize for that.
You're okay.
I forget the route number. Bill, what's the route number between Bellefonte and Milesburg?
150.
Okay, 144. And this you may have said it and I missed it, but I travel that road maybe 3 times a week. And right beyond the quick fill gas station, we have that steep ledge or bank, and constantly there are boulders falling off of that onto the highway. And I don't know if it's due to the rain or the dryness or a shift in the environment, but one of these days it's going to cause a major accident there, dodging those boulders. So I didn't hear anybody speak of it, but and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring it to your attention.
Nope, that's perfect, yes.
It would be nice to have the big chisel truck come down there and chisel out another 10 feet.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Do you have other topics?
One more
Okay, go
question
ahead.
related to land use, and then I'll get out of your hair. What are the anticipated changes in land use and development, and what are the potential issues or impacts on the transportation system?
I think we've pretty much already answered that, in that Benner and Spring completely surround Bellefonte. And they're creating more dense population developments, and that's going to affect traffic here in Bellefonte and out there. And it's also going to, although you don't have anything to do with the stormwater issues, which you have to deal with when you're building roads. But I think that we need to kind of look at all of that together and try to create some kind of plan that takes that all into account, so that whatever is done, it is safe for pedestrians, bicyclists, and car drivers and transit.
Any other comments or questions?
All right, thank you very much. I will hopefully be in touch soon about the Phoenix Avenue. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, the next item is a review of the general fund. Take it away, Lori.
Okay, so this is the big one, the general fund. The general fund encompasses the street department, the police department, all of the offices upstairs, planning, zoning, code, general government. So that is all wrapped up into this fund. It is not a balanced budget, but the net income from this year is enough to cover that for next year. So my suggestion is we let it do that. Instead of raising taxes, we can let that income supplement next year. Some of the big things I increased the real estate tax collection because we're going with GSS. There's a new tax bill format coming out next year through that. So one of the things I did across the board with anything that had real estate taxes is I lowered what we're expected to get because it's going to look different. It's going to be a threefold, like your paychecks that are sitting there. People may not realize when it comes and they may throw it out, and so our delinquents may go up for next year. Hopefully not. We're going to try to get the word out there, but it's a possibility, and I'd rather be cautious. The street department has their wish list at the back. So everything that Matt asked for is in here. We're going to do a lease or a loan payment for the dump truck. The rest of it is spread out over different areas. The curbing, ADA ramps, and the bucket truck, we can use capital projects money to pull back to cover that. We're looking at starting to redo some of the parking meters. They can't get new heads for them. They can't get parts, so we need to start that. So I put money in there, but there's a lot of money in the reserves for parking that we can use to cover that. Bill's here, Chief Whitmer, if you have any questions for his budget, but the only thing he really asked for next year is possibly a new used vehicle in case one of theirs goes down. The renovations have started in the bottom of the old building for the police department, but it is going to roll over into next year. They're hoping by the end of January it's done, so you'll see some of that in this budget. That's a whole lot in a little bit of time, but I'm kind of going to let you guys ask me questions.
Questions? For
Lori, I'm looking at 400.540 in expenses, first page. Contribution to airport. It's at 0. And in the years past, we did commit a little bit of money. Would that be, I'm going to ask our borough manager, who is on the airport authority with me, what his thoughts are. If we don't use it, fine. If we accept this budget, does that mean in June of 2025, if we were asked, I guess we could commit to 2026? Any thoughts on that, Ralph? The first pledge that the borough had all went away, because that whole project went away. So that's why you don't see anything currently in the budget. We did carry it over for, I think, a while, but that all went away. We could put a specific amount in the budget. I know that their plan is to do more than a pledge, actually transfer money and have an account ready and waiting. We haven't heard too much lately, because the airlines haven't given any type of time frame. But we could always go to the bulk water fund or something if need be, if council approves that. I think we're not talking about, you know, a huge amount of money. We could do that at the time.
Thanks.
And 363.21, parking meter revenue. I think I'm on page 2, 363.21. Parking permit.
Oh, 210.
210. Did I say that wrong? It looks like the income from that has gone down somewhat, and I know that's become a really big part of our parking and taking care of the downtown. So I didn't know if there was anybody had any insight into that.
Yeah, I think it's the makeup of our downtown currently. We lost two major, good long-term drugstores the last year or so. So we don't have what would normally bring people downtown like we did before. I know our enforcement has stayed the same. We actually have more enforcement. We have a part-timer, it comes in towards the late afternoon period. But I have to think it's the makeup of the current, retail businesses in the downtown. Hopefully that improves.
Thank you.
I think too, we've cut some of the enforcement, correct? Is that correct? Like
We don't enforce heavily late in the afternoon towards the evenings unless there's a fire hydrant blocked or something like that. But that has been somewhat laxed for a while. I don't know if you see a drop off because of that in particular. I have to think it's the loss of the two long-term drugstores.
Other questions for Lori? Joanne?
Some of them are just kind of general questions. When I was the first one is just trying to understand the whole thing. The 2023 column, is that a budget or actual expense column?
actual, 2023 is over.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at trying to compare the different years, and I couldn't tell if that was a budget line or the actual expenses from 2023.
Okay.
Okay, so that's actual. Okay, that one's an easy one. And then on page 7, there's a whole bunch of lines that have been zeroed out. For example, 406.308 and 406.351. The first one's janitorial services, and the second one's a commercial insurance expense, and there's a whole bunch of others. Was that zeroed out because they were moved over to the 301? Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. On page 8 and 9, there's 3 lines, 410, 115, 410, 193, and 410, 239, salary expenses for a part-time police officer. These lines are also zeroed out. Does this mean we no longer have any part-time officers and are not planning any for next year? Is that correct?
Is that on? As of right now, we have 1 full-time position. Finding part-timers is pretty non-existent anymore. We took it out of there because we're planning on trying to fill that full-time position.
Okay.
Yes.
That's kind of what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Yes.
And then on page 9, there and 10 and 12, they're all related to police or parking. These items 410, 238, 410, 324, and 419, 524. These lines are almost doubling, and in one case, there's a tenfold increase. I'm wondering why such a large increase.
Okay, say the line items.
On 9, 410, 238 is clothing and uniform expenses for the police. In 2023, the expense was $4,600. 2024, it was $5,426, and next year it's budgeted as $9,000.
So the cost of clothing have gone up, and I've also put in there for the 2 new officers, I need 2 vests. That'll cover 2 vests, bulletproof vests, and the increase in clothing.
Okay. Okay. And then similarly on page 10, 410, 324, cell phone expenses going from between $1,368 and $2,400 up to $7,400.
So the federal laws have changed where you are no longer allowed to have any kind of criminal justice on your personal cell phones. They're also subject to evidence, things like that. They're kind of forcing us to go to get the officers their own cell phones for emails, pictures, cell phones, everything they need to do on duty they can do on the cell phones. We got rid of the stipends, and they're just getting their own cell phones.
Okay. And then on page 12, there is parking enforcement cell phone expense. I guess this is the same sort of thing. 2023, it was $72. In 2024, it was $36, and it's budgeted for $650 in 2025.
I'm sorry, what number was that one?
419, 524 on page 12.
It is the same thing. It would be the secretary. None of them are allowed to have anything on there.
Correct.
So,
Okay. On page 14, planning and zoning, 414, 317. Why did we cut this in half? 24 is estimated to be at 6,200, and next year is budgeted for only 3,000.
say the line item again.
414.317.
So it went from data processing
It's under planning and zoning.
for data processing.
Hold on a second. Let me. 14. It's number 414.317. Oh, no, it's the one above, 414.314.
We had the whole issue with short-term rentals,
Oh, okay,
and that's been settled.
okay. That makes sense. Thank you on that one. Page 17, at the last meeting, I had requested an increase in funding for the CATA, and that's line 447. And you kept it flat for 2025. I had requested it to go up to 70 to stabilize and possibly expand transit services, to assist us in, this would assist us in negotiating transit services and showing local businesses as well as the state and federal funders that we want to provide transit services for our residents and to maintain our economic development. If the additional funding from other sources doesn't come anywhere, this additional funding that I'm requesting would help us to shore up what little services we have at this point, because we're not sure what Benner Township is going to be doing, and we may be faced with an increase. And I'd also like, just to be consistent, is to change the line title to public transit expense, just because we're not sure exactly what's going to happen after July 1st next year. Yeah.
Joanne, I'm sorry, did you say what you wanted to increase that to?
70,000.
Thank you.
So if we don't know what's going on in January, why do we want to throw more money at it unless we know exactly what's going on?
We're working on some possibilities. We're trying to do a survey through the CCMPO, and there's a nonprofit that is offering us some assistance, and we're also considering going to Penn State University Sustainability, get a student group to help out with this. Then we will know better an idea of how much all of this is going to cost. But if we don't have it in the budget, we may be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, either way you do it, if you put it in the budget, then it should be approved before we spend any of it once
Yeah, that's,
July comes. We understand
yeah,
that.
that's what yes, I understand that, but it's there in case we can go forward with this. And finally, just another curiosity question. Many of the other parts of the general budget have legal expenses. HARB does not. Is that just because we've never had any in the past, or what?
I mean, we can put it in.
We typically do not have HARB legal expenses.
Okay.
It's possible, but we typically do not.
Okay.
And as far as the CATA expense, if that's up to council,
Right, she can't just put that in. You
Right.
understand that, right, Joanne? She can't just add $70,000 to the budget without council voting on it. So you can't just ask her to add $70,000 for your budget with CATA. That's something you'd have to bring in front of us. We'd have to vote on it, get it approved for next year. So I'm not even sure what that question is, but
The question was to be considering, because like when we do budgets, we say, what
But, I mean,
is,
she's answering it. You said, why hasn't the 70,000 been added? She's answering it. It has to go in front of council. We'd have to vote on it. That's why. That's all.
okay.
Okay. Just like anything else, right? Okay, especially that amount of money.
yeah, if
Okay.
council wants to do that, I mean,
Currently, there's 35,000 in there, so this is making it to 70, so it's not from nothing to 70, just FYI.
Any other questions for Lori?
So Joanne, you're not asking for 70 additional, you're asking for enough to take it up to 70.
So what does that do to your budget then? You said it wasn't a balanced budget. How much does that, if you were to bump that up to 35,000 more?
so we're at $168,000 short. So you add another 35,000, you're going to be at almost 200, a little over 200,000 short.
Not sort of budget related, but where did the funding come from to add the additional 6 hours to the B loop?
Go ahead, Deborah.
The B line that started on July 1st was, the reduction in service was such that it was 5 hours a day, 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 in the evening. For the first 4 months of that service, they were running at approximately 30% capacity because it disenfranchised so many riders. And during that time, CATA had allocated 2 vehicles to be available. They had no idea what the capacity was going to be. This was a whole new concept for them. What they did, because they're running so far below what they could offer, basically, they've taken one of the vehicles out of the loop. They have one vehicle now designated for the B line service and opened it up to be available from 7 in the morning to 6 in the evening, 5 days a week, in an attempt to see if we can get some of the riders back. It does not change the funding requests or the costs at this time.
It did not change the funding request of $225,000 for 2025.
Well, no, because that was for CATA Go service. That was 5 days a week for a very different type of service. What we're getting now for the $30,000-ish monies that we're giving to CATA, we're getting this very reduced service B line, which is the pre-registration $4 fare. So at this point, CATA is still trying to figure out how to make this work. That they have, after 4 months, made a change in the availability of the service is, to me, a big step forward because it makes it more accessible to people.
Okay.
So at this
so
point,
if it works, does that mean our 30,000 that we allotted for 2025, I believe, will...
potentially, we don't know, because they've always hinted that whatever we have now could increase in cost next year,
Okay.
because that's just,
Yeah, I'm trying to get it straight in my
Yeah.
head. It was a shock to me that all of a sudden they doubled our transportation services through CATA. You know, we only had 6 hours. They added another 6 at no cost to us,
Well-
which is wonderful.
right, but the way they did it was taking one of those vehicles that they had designated for us and used it elsewhere, because they've expanded their CATA-Go service to so many different areas within the rest of their system.
So would that additional time satisfy what this committee is trying to accomplish?
Since it just went into effect today, it's hard to tell. You know, I mean, this really did just happen today, that additional 6 hours. And it takes a couple of months for riders to adjust to any transit changes. So it won't be till after the first of the year that we have an idea of what the change in ridership is going to be. Plus, we're going into holiday season and all the other variables that happen. What we're trying to do is we're maintaining contact with CATA. There's an open dialogue. After the first of the year, we want to meet with them and talk about what the possibilities are for next year's service starting July 1st. We would like them to come to us on basically the same schedule they have in the past. In the spring, March, present a proposal for service for the upcoming fiscal year and give us an idea of what the service would be and the cost would be.
I think the question, Doug, if I heard you right, was the concern of where all of a sudden, in layman's terms, where all of a sudden did the money come from to provide the additional hours of service? Is that right?
Yes, I would, but the answer I'm hearing is they took one vehicle out of service,
Right. They moved
which covers
stuff around.
They shifted some of the resources around. How they came up with this idea, you'd have to ask CATA directly.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deb.
But I think also by expanding it to the 11 hours, if we can get the transit riders who disappeared, it was basically a 90% reduction in people who were coming to use CATA. By doing that, they can get more of the individuals paying for the services. And so that's where the extra money is coming in. It's not that they're charging us more, they're spreading out what we did to make it happen. Does that make sense?
Not really.
Not really to me,
But
but
it sounds like they
it's
didn't
okay.
have additional funding to do this. They moved stuff around, right? They moved stuff around,
Right.
they moved schedules around, they moved vehicles around, and now, boom, they can provide 6 more hours of service to Bellefonte, which is great.
yeah.
Well, basically,
great.
we were paying for service we were not
They
getting.
weren't hiding the fact that they had money somewhere.
No.
That they, yeah,
We've been paying for service we were not getting.
right. Yeah.
You know, if you're paying for something, you're getting a 30% return, you know,
Yeah,
something
so
has to
that's-
change. So CATA has made adjustments to promote accessibility for the public. And like I said, it just went into effect today. So we don't really know what the impact's going to be. Hopefully, it will get people back on board.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be positive. Yeah. Sure.
Right.
Good.
You mentioned $4. Is that one way or a round trip? So would it cost a worker $8 a day?
Yes.
Thank you.
While people in State College are paying $2.20 one way.
Other questions or comments?
I just have a question
I'm
about
not sure where we're at now.
the CATA bill, and maybe you can help me with this. I think last year we did not get, when they made the big increase, we did not get that in time for our budget. Is that correct? So can we expect something from them by the end of the year so we can include this in our budget, or is that because this is such an unknown?
I think at this point it's such an unknown. If we can keep, I understand Joanne's perspective of, you're not going to get it if you don't ask.
Sure.
Keeping that budget line item there. It's there if we need it, and we can possibly expand. The other thing to keep in mind is that we do have a revenue stream from the county. It's line 358,500. It's the county CATA contract. The county pays us over $7,000 a year. So that offsets whatever we pay to CATA.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's a nice thing to have in there.
That's nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So $32,000 seems like a lot of money, but you back out that extra $7,000. It's a little bit
Okay,
easier.
Right, so so we really need 7,000 less than
Yeah.
what would be listed there.
Right, but hopefully we'll have a better idea after the first of the year, get an idea of what kind of service we can expect to continue with and what it's going to cost.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Dan?
Let me find my paper here. I have two questions. One is salary expenses for non-union employees. We usually do that as an executive session, probably next meeting. Is that correct?
Probably. It was nice to get it done before the end of the year. We could do it the evening that the budgets were acted on, but preferably the first meeting in December.
Okay, great, thank you. The other thing that I know we had cut out, and it's from a couple different sections of the budget, is the GPS fee expenses, and whether we want to reenact that or parts of it. I guess since Chief Whitmer's here, maybe you can weigh in on that from the police department. Stand on that, the GPS monthly fee that we're not doing right now.
I wasn't, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in when that was all signed up, so I don't really know too much about it or what the real purpose was. I believe it was for insurance purposes. Is that correct? I'm not sure what we're...
There were several reasons. One
Okay.
was insurance, one was to see how to optimize where cars and trucks, not
Okay.
just one department, but all the departments were going, try to optimize the operations. So I would just add, I know I in particular would like to look at some of the operations on the public works side. The refuse collection comes to mind. It's been a number of years since we really have done a thorough review of like timing, how many stops does a truck do in a day, the fuel usage, the amount of weight that's collected, the size of the truck, collect all that data and look at it and see if we can be more efficient. And that's the use. That's what we should be doing with this type of service or equipment. It's just that it has a cost, and the last time, there really wasn't any uses being provided by the data, or wasn't taken advantage of.
Yeah, I do see benefits of it, of course. I just have to look into it and understand a little more of what we want it for. And then we'd have to also adopt policies with it as well through the police department.
Right. Does that in any way offset the savings from insurance? And I'm sure you can just pull that out of nowhere.
I've not heard that. I think there's been times where we may have had that on our vehicles for a short period of time, but that was not the main reason why we implemented the system.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Other questions relative to the budget before we conclude the work session?
I do, Kent, I think. Sorry. No pressure. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay. That'll conclude the Bellefonte Borough work session. like to call to order tonight's Bellefonte Borough business meeting. Start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bernier.
Here.
Mr. Brackbill.
Here.
Ms. Cleaton.
Here.
Ms. Dan.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Present.
Ms. McKean.
Here.
Ms. Purnell.
Here.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Here.
Ms. Tosti Vasey.
I'm here.
Mr. Larson.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. We got to get Mr. Larson his own microphone. All right, next is additions to the council meeting agenda. Any council members have any additions they'd like to be considered for our agenda tonight? If not, we'll move on to public comment. It's public comment for items on the agenda. No? Okay. Next item are communications, all written. They were all part of your packet tonight. First one was a memo on comments received related to the bicycle pedestrian movement near the Mill Race High Street Bridge project planned for 2026. The next item was, yeah.
I think this is it. I was reading the contract, and there's something about not funding the strobe lights. Is this the one? So if it is there any chance that we could put the conduit in the ground? They were putting conduit in the ground for something else, but if there's a possibility in the future that crosswalk remains, this would be the time to put the conduit underground during the project.
Aren't those solar powered? I thought they were solar powered.
That is more than I can tell you at this moment.
I'll check on that, Mr. Johnson, but we can, yes, if it needs conduit, we can do it now. It'd be the time to do it. So I did see those comments.
Related to that, that was Gina's memo to them, and she had asked for additional lighting, the decorative lighting, and I think that needs to be pushed back. That we'll need to have a council vote on to say that we put the conduit in at the same time for the exact same reason.
Okay, I can put those in a motion, the conduit for the lighting and the conduit for the flashing light, and put that on an agenda, and it'll be added into the project. We can do that.
That's okay. Hey, other questions on that first item there? Not. Okay. All right. So we'll wait to the end. Okay. Next is a memo. Next communication is a memo. Comments received related to the public display of plans for the Mills Race High Street Bridge project planned for 2026. That'll be taken care of. For the public to see them?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they were already displayed here
Okay.
a couple weeks ago, and those comments are what was reflected in your materials.
Okay. Next item is what we talked about in our work session, the CATA notice that
I wanted to comment on that one. That was comments that I had sent just before I went to Italy, and when I got back, Mr. Scott sent back comments, and he did say that if I had any additional comments after reviewing what they said, and just wanted to let you know what I had said about it. The first one was something that I talked about in the work session, was the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection because of the already high amount of pedestrian traffic crossing the street. And the second, so I'm not going to go over that one again. The second one was, I had said that there was a problem with the ADA curbing at the intersection of High and Water Street, because if you actually look at the picture on Google Maps, they actually go out into the street rather than perpendicular to each street. So people who are using wheelchairs or strollers or even those moving walkers have to get out into the street when they're crossing High Street, and that could be dangerous for them. And so I had asked them to either move the crosswalk down a little bit or fix the sidewalks. They said they weren't going to do that, so I wrote back and I basically said, is there some, I don't know what their solution is if we're not going to move any sidewalk there, but could you create those ADA ramps to make them perpendicular to the street rather than at the 45-degree angle that they currently are, because that's unsafe for pedestrians. And I have not heard back from him yet.
When is this project supposed to start?
It's going to start in '26.
So we've got a little bit of
We've got
time.
plenty of time.
Now, just for my clarification, my notes, you said the intersection of High and Water.
Right.
Okay.
It's right at the edge of the bridge, and if you look at the ramps, they actually, let's see, here's High Street, here's Water Street, and instead of having a ramp here and a ramp here, it goes over here. And that's unsafe for people trying to get on, because they actually have to get out into the street to get back in.
Well, maybe they'll get back to you. You said they haven't gotten back to you?
No, I sent this on the 9th of November, so it's relatively close. It takes them a while to review
Right.
it. And then there was, in his comments, he did say, and I would like to put this on the agenda too. Let me find it. He said about bump outs, we need to vote on that before they'll do that. But he says if council agrees to the bump outs along High Street, that we can do, that they can put those in at the same time. So that needs to be put on the motions as well.
Got it. Next item is the CATA notice that the B-line hours of operation have been extended. We discussed that a little bit in our work session. No council action is requested. The next is the solar. Sure.
Please. I just wanted to thank Joanne and Deb Cleaton for all their hard work on CATA. I know it's been a lot that you've been doing. I just wanted to say thank you. That definitely is a move in the right direction.
Thank you.
Sure is. Yep. Next is the solar co-op update that was in your packet, the information. No council action is requested at this time relative to that. The next section is our consent agenda. I'll call for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Brackbill.
Thank you, Mr. Brackbill.
I'll second it, Clayton.
And I'd like to remove the minutes.
Why is that, Joanne? What's with the
There's
minutes?
one sentence that is backwards.
Can we just fix it administratively? How's it backwards, Joanne?
Well, it's where our junior council member reported at a meeting that a small group of seniors visited Glenn Thompson. The minutes say Glenn Thompson visited the high school to talk to the students. It was the other way around.
I'm happy to fix that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's why it's
You
backwards.
sure he didn't visit the high school?
I mean, when I read it, I took it as he visited with high school students, but I guess I could have read into it
Think
a
of the
little bit
money we could
closer.
save if we didn't have to fix that. Oh, all right, thank you. All right, Mr. Stewart, we're good?
Good.
All right. Yep, we got to, I don't even know how to vote on this, so
The whole thing.
the whole consent agenda, we're going to vote on it.
Okay, Mr. Bernier,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton,
Yes.
Ms. Stan, yes, Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. McKean,
Yes.
Ms. Purnell,
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Yes.
Ms. Toasty Vasey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next section is reports. Elected officials, we'll start out with our mayor, Mayor Johnson.
Thank you. I have three things to discuss tonight. We were in Governor's Park over the weekend, and it looks phenomenal. So our Public Works Department has has done a great job with the amount of leaves and everything that you can imagine that fall. It's very clean. It looks really nice, and it's very, very appreciated. With the nice weather, there were a lot of people in the park enjoying it. So thanks to Matt and everybody who had a hand in that. Two, I would like to thank the Girl Scouts in the heart of Pennsylvania, Troop 40058. They invited me, and I went and spoke with them last week to help them with their badge for democracy. And it was a great time, fielded a lot of really good questions. So my wife and I really enjoyed that, so I'd like to thank them. And finally, tomorrow, I would like to welcome back Alyssa Doherty, who is our administrative assistant. I believe she is coming back tomorrow after having her baby. Her and Hunter are both doing well. I know it's been a long road for them, but he's doing pretty well. So welcome back tomorrow, Alyssa.
Good news.
That's all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
The rest of these reports were submitted. Chief is here if anybody has any questions for the chief. Joanne?
Just this is mostly a curiosity question. How is it possible to have 19 hours of police overtime and also have 48 and a half hours of reimbursed overtime for the same month? Okay, so if we were to add them up, that would be the total amount of overtime for the entire month. Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Other questions from any council members for the reports that were submitted?
I have a couple I'd like to get into here. First one is Center Region Council governments. They canceled their meeting for this month. Bellefonte Fire Department, with these reports, we meet every other month, and so things kind of get a little slow getting into the report in the packet here. And I had talked to Melissa about it a couple weeks ago. There was a couple she had found, and I told her, I said, I'll take a look at it because I think I have the rest of them or whatever. I said, they're usually sitting on my computer. But there's, for some reason, somebody got confused about it, and I haven't seen maybe one or two reports during this fire department, so we're going to work on that a little bit. Those are the only main ones I have. Just want to let you know why they're empty.
That's under liaison reports?
Yeah,
Randy,
that's under
what you're talking
special
about?
committees, Bellefonte Fire Department Executive
okay.
Committee.
Any questions for Mr. Stewart? His report was submitted. Go ahead, Joanne.
I need to go back to the regular reports, and it's just an announcement for the HARB. Just to reiterate the announcements made at the last two HARB meetings and at the last council meeting on November 4th. Gina announced that a public presentation on the new HARB guidelines will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, November 19th from 6 to 7:30 here in this room. The announcement is posted on the front page of our website and on our Facebook page. Thank you. And do we have, just out of curiosity, do we have any other social media outlets where this could be posted?
We do. They use Nextdoor, Facebook, and some of those.
Yeah. Could we put it on Nextdoor?
I can check on that.
Because I looked through Nextdoor and I didn't see it.
I know Alyssa normally does that. I can see if we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So there's a couple of announcements here I have for you. The Nittany Valley Joint Planning Commission will meet on Thursday, November 21st at 6 p.m. in the Spring Township Municipal Building. The next Planning Commission meeting is going to be held Monday, December 9th. The next HARB meeting is scheduled for December 12th at 8:30 a.m. in council chambers. If there's no other questions, that's it for reports. Liaison reports we touched on. We'll move along to current and old business. An executive session for personnel matters was held at the conclusion of the November 4th, 2024 council meeting. Next item under current old business is the streaming channel franchise fees. These fees have not been approved. Current cases provided by PSAB. At this time, there's no council action requested. A legal opinion on the lease agreement with the Bald Eagle Area School District for Governor's Park Ball Field. The council may set up an informal meeting to discuss the issues and concerns. That's actually being done, right? We got a legal opinion. We're working on it.
We got the legal opinion. Sorry, we got the legal opinion. What I can do is I can reach out to the school district about a meeting and go start working on that.
That was a lease agreement between Bellefonte Area School District. I think I misspoke and said Bald Eagle. No formal council action is requested. Any comments? If not, we're moving on to new business. First item is a resolution adopting a new police department internal affairs policy. I need a motion and a second to approve the resolution number 111-820-24-01 as presented.
I'll make that motion. Dan?
Thank you, Dan. I'll second. Thank you. Discussion?
Yes, I'd like to move to amend it by, on page 3, item 10B. I would like to add one sentence at the end of that paragraph to make it very clear about how we are not going to, we do not want to commingle the duties of the council and mayor with the investigations, because that sentence says, council shall ensure that the adjudicatory function is kept separate from the investigatory and prosecutorial functions during the course of the internal affairs investigation. What I want to add at the end of that is, in order to prevent the commingling of these functions, neither the mayor nor members of the council may be designated as the investigator, even if otherwise qualified. I sent this to Ralph and the mayor and to the chief of police last night, and the responses was that this is, if you all would agree with it, we could just go ahead and do it. It just makes it clear that what commingling does, and I've dealt with this. Well, I can't talk until we have the second. Sorry.
Not really sure what she's asking. I don't understand it.
Did you? I think you got a second on that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who was
You
the second?
seconded it.
Oh yeah,
Shauna
Shauna.
did.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yes, Shauna. Yes, we're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other comments? Okay. Roll call vote.
So we're going to add, this
That-
is to add that part of it, or this is for the,
It would be the motion first, the motion to add that sentence.
okay. Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan, yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Toasty Vasey?
Yes, and thank you.
So it passes with the added sentence, or we got to do this again?
Now we can do the whole
It'd
thing.
be safer to do the whole thing now. You could have probably did it all in one.
Much more clear this way. Let's not break habit.
Okay.
Any other, are we okay to vote on that now?
Yeah, I think you'll need a motion and a second for the original.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right.
Okay, Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan, yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Toasty Vasey?
Yes.
Next, resolution supporting fire equipment grant application through the statewide local share assessment funds of the Commonwealth Financing Agency. I need a motion and a second to approve resolution number 111-8202-4-02 as presented.
Second, Brackville.
Discussion. Questions, concerns? Roll call vote, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bernier, I did have a question. I couldn't find my paper, excuse me. I just had a question. We designated Mr. Stewart and the Assistant Superintendent of Public Works. I just have a question as to why that was done with two people on that.
The resolution is boilerplate, and Julie is helping us, has been helping us with grant administration. So we thought it'd be good to have her involved.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Are we ready to vote?
I think so.
Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan, yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Toasty Vasey?
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay, next is public comment regarding issues that are not on our agenda. This is a period for public oral comments regarding items that are not listed in tonight's meeting agenda. I believe our mayor has comments, and then we have some comments from our audience. So, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. I've had some community members reach out to me with concern with the new airport road and the school. With the limited amount of fitness trails that we have in Bellefonte, that particular trail is heavily used. I think their worry is, will it be functional as it was in the future? And with the length of the project, is there any way that it could be functional while the construction is going on? People who walk their dogs on that have to go out on the road and go around, which is one of the reasons my wife and I walked to the park yesterday. A large section of the walking trail is shut down, and it's really not safe, especially with the hill, for people to walk on the road. So I don't know if anybody has an answer for that, but community members have reached out to me about the safety and how nice that trail is, and how they really would like to get it back to functional without having the construction in the way of our trail.
We can reach out to the facilities director over there,
Yes.
Mr. Lannon,
Yes.
who came and spoke, and I know and have spoke to about this project. I mean, he would be someone that could certainly find that information out for us. So,
Absolutely, thank you.
Mr. Tom Lannon at Bellefonte, he's the facilities director, and see if he can either come here maybe by next meeting and speak on that topic, or at least send us some correspondence.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Sure. I can take care of emailing him. All right. Sir, you are next. Mr. Elliott Killian?
Yes.
All right, sir. You have it. If there's a button there that you should hit, the green light should come on. That'll amplify your voice. All right.
Is it on?
There you go.
Okay. I am Elliot Killian, property owner at 111 East High Street. It's the green building next to the courthouse. I reside in Ferguson Township. I'm committed to the long-term success of Bellefonte. I want Bellefonte to be a community economically thriving with historic charm. However, if you walk down Bellefonte today, you would see a number of vacant spaces. These vacant spaces have been empty for 1, 2, or many years. Seeing this, I wondered if there was a calculation on finding how much retail space a community needs, and if Bellefonte has too little, the correct amount, or too much. I discovered that there already is a model for this. It is named the Retail Space Demand Model. This first calculates the total income of the community per year, then the amount that the community would spend on retail. You take that number and divide it by the expected revenue for a retail operation per square foot per year. This gives you the total retail space a community can support. Figuring out how much retail space a community has is a little bit more difficult. I use Google Maps area calculation tool to find the total area of commercial zoning. This number might be high as it includes sidewalks and spaces in between building. This number might be low as it only counts one floor, the first floor, and doesn't count multiple floors, and there are multiple floor retail and commercial in Bellefonte. Calculating all this, I found that just the Central Business District, or CBD, not including the other 3 commercial zones of Bellefonte Borough, so just CBD is 2.64 times larger than all of the retail needs of the entire borough. This means that the vacancies of the CBD and elsewhere in the borough are because there is too much commercially zoned area in the borough. I suggest 3 different options. Option 1, allow residential use in all of CBD. Currently, CBD allows for residential use, but only does not allow on the first floor. So changing this would allow people to live on the first floor of CBD. Option 2, drastically deregulate what retail and commercial use can occur in CBD. Make a list of what you would not allow, and then allow all other retail and commercial use. Option 3, remove all other retail zoning in the borough and only allow CBD to fill all the retail needs of the entire borough. In my report that I emailed to council, I included an option 0. That is doing nothing. But doing nothing really isn't an option. If you as a council did nothing, you'd be stopping the preservation of historic buildings being economically viable. Historic buildings will be neglected and eventually collapse. There needs to be a financial incentive to preserve the historic buildings, or this simply will not happen. Vacant spaces are a sign that the current market and regulations do not support these buildings. So instead of seeing vacant signs, I want you to imagine vacant lots of missing historic buildings. Imagine that these buildings are gone, because that is what will happen if there is no change. If we can work together to address the problems of the community, I'm optimistic about Bellefonte's long-term future. I want a solution that helps all of Bellefonte. I want Bellefonte to be a community economically thriving with historic charm. I thank you for listening and serving in local government.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comment from the public? There's nobody else on the list, but no. Joanne?
Just responding to his comments, well, should this be going to the Planning Commission?
Yes.
It could go to planning, it could come to council, and council could recommend the planning commission look at it. So there's a number of ways it could go.
So if we do that, that needs to be put on the agenda for the next meeting.
We can do that.
Joanne, did you mean to put it on the agenda to send it to planning? Yes. And that would be the first place. Okay, thank you.
Because we'd have to discuss that, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. There's
What?
nothing. Mr. Johnson?
I have a comment. We finally got our shirts.
Nice.
So I wanted to thank the borough staff for doing that for us.
No problem.
Appreciate it very much.
No problem.
Not sure how much more I can take of him leaning over the table. Can we seriously get another mic down there?
We'll try. Just a reminder, the borough is planning an open house on December 5th. It's a Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. here in this building. We want to welcome the community into this building, and it'll be an open house. We'll try to get some food gathered up for this, and we welcome people to stop by and look at the council room and the meeting room that we have and the offices that we have. But we'll try, that is now on our website, but we wanted to mention it at least tonight anyway.
December 5th, 6 to 8.
Yes, thank you.
Right here.
Yes.
Because there's not another meeting between now and then, is there?
There's one on
There
December
is.
2nd,
Okay.
yes.
All right. That it?
So just FYI for the public, on the December 2nd, we're going to do an initial vote on the budget, and we'll do the final one at the second meeting in December, correct?
That is correct. The December 2nd meeting will be a tentative vote on the budget. The budget will be advertised for public inspection Usually by Thursday or Friday of that week, it'll be a 10-day inspection. It'll be posted on our website as well. And then council can act on it, change it, or what have you at the last meeting in December.
Okay, nothing else. Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.